Okay, so here we are. We've launched Word, and it looks like no other version before it. We need to spend a little bit of time here getting acquainted with our newly designed UI, and I'm going to start right up at the top. Well, some things have remained the same, much is different. One of the things that's the same is across the top here we've got our title bar. And the title bar, just like always here, shows us the name of the document, the current document that we're working with. So we're reminded of the name up here. And just like before, documents that are new and haven't been created or named yet, they're numbered. So document 1 up here next to Microsoft Word indicates to me that this is a newly created document and it doesn't have a name yet. So it's automatically named document 1 by Microsoft Word. What's brand new is over to the left here. We've got the quick access toolbar. And right now it's kind of small. It's only got 3 buttons showing up on it. Looks like here we've got a save, an undo, and a redo button. And this access bar, this quick access toolbar, is totally customizable. And believe me, we'll be spending a lot of time on this, customizing it to show the commands that you use most often so you can have quick access to them. Right next to the quick access toolbar is the main button of them all, the office button. And the office button here is kind of like a fancy file menu. So I'm going to give it a click. Right away you can see that there's a number of file type commands showing up down below. We've got new, open, save, we've got print. All of these things that we might remember seeing under the file menu on the menu bar. Now, as I scroll down here, you can see some of these items actually have little arrows next to them, which means they have additional commands hiding underneath them. So under Save As, I've got a number of save options. If I move down to Print, because it has this little arrow next to it, I've got 3 different print options showing up here. In the bottom right corner, you can see I can even exit Word. So I can go right out of the application by clicking this. And I've got all my Word options down here, so we'll be spending a great deal of time later on looking at all the various Word options that you can adjust until you get it working exactly the way you like it. With nothing selected, you can see I'm going to be listing recent documents. So all the documents that I work on will show up here over time as my most recently used documents, and there'll be a little push pin next to it if you have any documents that you want showing up on this list all the time. In other words, you don't want certain documents to disappear from this list as you work on other documents, so clicking the little push pin here will lock it in so it's always on your recent documents list. Now, if I don't really want to select anything from this menu or any of these menu items, I just simply come over to my document and click in it here, and that closes up the Office button. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Alright, here it is, the brand new context-sensitive ribbon. This is the biggest change in Word 2007. The ribbon, coming across our screen from left to right, is going to contain all of the commands, and the difference here is that the ribbon is context-sensitive. What I mean by that is it's going to change as you're working on your documents in Word. For example, if you're working on a table, what's going to happen is you're going to see a number of table commands show up here. If you're working on a picture in your document, you're going to see some picture tools show up. So you're always going to have the tools you need when you need them. And the ribbon here you can see is broken up into tabs. Right now the page layout tab is selected. So the groups that you see down below, which include themes, page setup, page background, and so on, these groups are all related to page layout. So they're easy to find if you had to. Like I said though, the ribbon's going to change as you work on your document. If I click on the Home tab, you're going to see that there's some different groups here. We've got the clipboard, we've got the font group, paragraph group, and styles. I'm going to go back to page layout here. And you can see inside each of these groups we've got buttons that represent the different commands that you might want to use in that group. And as you hover over them, you do get a little bit of help about what each one of these will do if you were to select it. So what happens if you don't actually find the command you're looking for? Well, you may have noticed that some of these groups, like the page setup group here under page layout, has a little diagonal arrow showing up in the bottom right hand corner. And that little diagonal arrow is actually going to launch a dialog box. We call it the dialog box launcher, or dialog launcher. And when you click it, you can see a dialog box does show up. This one's called Page Setup, and this is probably more like what you're used to seeing if you've used previous versions of Word. So we've got a dialog box with 3 tabs: margins, paper, layout, for example, and each of those tabs has its own list of commands in here, like our margins, for example, and our orientation, etc. The dialog box has its own help button and also has a close button in the top right hand corner. So you could make your changes right here from the dialog box, click OK to save them, but we're going to click cancel because we're not actually making any changes at this time. We'll save that for a little bit later on. Now, if you think back to previous versions of Word, you might remember the menu bar. And the menu bar went across the top right underneath the title bar. It always started with File, no matter what application you were using, and worked its way across the right, and Help was always the last option. Right now, we don't have a menu bar, but we do have some tabs, starting with Home, Insert, Page Layout. And if we go all the way to the right, we don't have a Help tab. So where do we get help? Well, we got to go a little bit further to the right. We do have a help button. So this little button that looks like it's got a question mark on it is our help button for Microsoft Office Word. It says so right here as I hover over it. And you'll notice that F1 shows up in brackets indicating the keyboard shortcut. I can press F1 on the keyboard at any time to go into my Microsoft Office Word help. I'm just going to click on it right here. And that's going to launch the dialog. And this is the home page when you go into Word Help. And you can see it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. We actually have categories down here that we can browse through, like what's new. Each of these is a link. Getting help. Page numbers. If we're working on tables, we might come down here, click right on tables. Takes us to the second screen. And here are the subcategories under tables. So we can do creating tables or formatting tables. We also have topics showing up down below. There's 4 items listed here for working with tables, but I'm more interested in formatting, so I'm going to click Formatting Tables, and you can see now I've got the topics under Formatting Tables. Now, kind of like a browser, an internet browser like Internet Explorer, for example, we're set up here so we can use a back button to go back through the various screens that we came through. We have a stop button. We have a refresh button, which will refresh our screen. And we even have a home button. The home button, just like the home button in Internet Explorer, takes us right to the very first page, our first main page that we see when we launch Microsoft Word Help. Now, we do have a minimize, we have a maximize, and a close button, just like we would with any other window. And I'm going to close this up for now. We'll come back to that a little bit later on as we delve a little deeper into getting help. One thing that's kind of cool, we know that F1 will launch the help dialog box. It's our keyboard shortcut. But what you might not know is that every single item on the ribbon, every command, has its own keyboard shortcut. And if I press the Alt key on the keyboard, and you can go ahead and do that too, just pressing the Alt key brings up all these numbers and letters. And you can see the letter F up here represents our Office button. The 1 is our Save button on our Quick Access toolbar. Then you've got H for Home, N for Insert, P for Page Layout, and so on. So I could press any of these keys on the keyboard. For example, if I wanted to look at mailings, I would hit the letter M according to what I see on the screen. So I press the letter M on my keyboard, and you can see it's taken me right to the Mailings tab. And now each of the commands on the ribbon have their own letters, so I can continue using the keyboard. If I wanted to look at envelopes, I press the letter E on my keyboard, and you can see what's happening here. It's busy now bringing up the envelopes and labels dialog box. I'm going to close that up, and if you no longer want to work with the keyboard shortcuts, the way you turn it on, the Alt key, also turns it off. Pressing the Alt key takes away your keyboard shortcuts. So that's kind of neat. The last cool change is what we call the mini toolbar, and this is a toolbar that appears whenever you select text. So I'm just going to type some text. And now I'm going to select that text just by clicking and dragging over it, and I'm going to hover over that text. And you can see that faintly in the top right corner, just to the right of my mouse and a little bit higher, is a faint little box, and as I move over to it, it's no longer faint. So it becomes active. And in here, in this mini toolbar, I have some options for working with text, like bolding it, changing the color, highlighting, the alignment, and so on. So it's right at my fingertips. I don't actually have to go searching for, font commands and stuff in the ribbon. It's right here in this mini toolbar. It's kind of cool. I'm going to click down here to deselect that text. Just to show you a couple other things, we've got on the right hand side scroll bars, so you're used to using the scroll bar to scroll up and down. If your document's too wide, you'll get a scroll bar across the bottom. So we still have that, and a status bar across the bottom with some buttons on it and so on, some viewing options, and we're going to explore all of these next when we do a little navigating in the interface.